Hello and welcome to the Arsenal. I was going to say the Arsenal Way. Then it's my other channel, the Gooner Talk. It's better I do that on here than on there. Hello, I hope you're well. Hope you're doing good. You joined myself and Kev for our monthly, although we did skip January because there's a lot going on in the world of senior Arsenal football. Too much to discuss. And to be fair, there was a bit of a break as well for the youth sides in fixtures. So we're reconvening nearly the end of February now to look back over not only the fixtures that have taken place, but also the mass exodus of players through loans and kind of seeing where they're going and what we think about those loans and who might return and who might end up leaving on a permanent also in the summer. Kev, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I am well, Tom. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure as always. It's Pancake Day next week, so that is the best day of the year.
Priorities, absolutely. Yes, love that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that now you said that. I think it's March 1st, is it? Pancake Day, I think so. There you go. I only know that because I've got a garage appointment that day. That's the only reason why I know that's on. So yeah, let's talk about the fixtures. For those that aren't in the know about what's happened over the last month. The last time we did a show, we finished on a 3-2 win over Southampton on the 12th of December. Then there was a bit of a break and we didn't then play until the 7th of January. Now, to run you through the PL2 and PL Cup games, we drew 1-1 with Brighton and Hove Albion away from home. We then drew with West Ham United, who from memory are having a very good season, currently second in the table there. 4-0 win in the PL Cup over Bournemouth, a 1-1 draw with Derby, a 3-1 win over Chelsea, a 4-1 loss to West Bromwich Albion in the PL Cup, but that was still enough that we didn't get knocked out of the group. We had to lose, I think, by 4 goals, and we managed to avoid that despite West Brom scoring 2 goals in the last kind of 5 minutes of the game. And then we had our 4th 1-1 draw of the period against Leicester on last Monday, 2 days ago, that's just gone. Also, in the Papa John's Trophy, we progressed and then were knocked out by Wigan 1-0 on the 25th of January, which was a shame because, I mean, Wigan are a side that, were playing in the Premier League not so long ago, and we put up a really good account of ourselves and could have absolutely taken a win away from, I believe, the DW Stadium. Is it the DW Stadium? Yeah, it is. Yeah. And unfortunately, we couldn't do that. And we can go on to play Sutton in the semi-final now, who, again, another side that have played Arsenal's senior team in the FA Cup in the not-so-distant past. So, Kev, before we go on to kind of the individual players, it's kind of been the month that's, I don't want to say wrecked Arsenal's hopes of a title chase, but it's given it a pretty hard dent, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's always a strange month, January, for the PL2, really, because you've got so many players that are coming and going out. It can be very destabilizing, and I think that has sort of come into play a little bit. We've sort of been not able to put the same consistent team out. There's been, when you take a player like Flores and Balogun away from a side, that's going to be a massive difference, even though we have managed to score goals. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of 1-1 draws in there. You'd probably hedge your bets if Balogun played in some of those games. He would have been the one popping up with a winner. So you can sort of see where the impact has been from some of those players leaving and moving on loan, which they absolutely needed to do. But it has had an impact, I think, on the fortunes of the under-23 side in the month of January. But I think, just like you said as well, having big gaps in between some of the games and having sort of, weirdly, a winter break has sort of meant we sort of dropped out of rhythm a little bit. And some of the results, don't get me wrong, have been really good. I mean, the win against Chelsea, fantastic. Overall, we battered Chelsea this season, which has been delightful. I think in the 3 times the under-23s have played them, if you add all the goals up, we won 13-3. So that is really something to take away from this season that we can kind of look back on. And I think, they'll be sick of the sight of Amari Hutchinson and some of the rest of those players. So yeah, there's been some really pleasing results, but it's been a tough month, and no one likes a 1-1 draw. We've been so close to getting some of those positive results, but yeah, five league games and 4 1-1 draws is a bit troublesome. Hopefully we can pick up some of that form moving on into March.
Absolutely, yeah. Interesting to talk about the PL Cup as well, because as we say, even though we got battered 4-1 in the end by West Brom, West Brom aren't even in the PL2, are they?
No,
Are
they're
they? No, they're in the division down. Is that right?
They do tend to, I think, play because we played them earlier on in the season. And they battered us, and they tend to play a lot of older players who have featured in their first team as well. So, and I think when we've played them, we've not quite had some of our key players. And we've sort of had to play a bit of a younger team. So I think it's almost seemed like men against boys sometimes, and we've not been able to compete at the level we'd like.
So it's kind of like us putting Saka and Smith Rowe into the
not too far away from that. Yeah.
Seems unfair.
That's the story we're going with anyway.
Absolutely, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, we push forward into the next round. Who is it that we have to play? I'm trying to look now at the fixtures from the PL Cup of who we might play. It's not coming up on my screen. I couldn't find it either when I was trying to find it. I don't know if they might not have done the draw yet, to be fair. Yeah. Oh, hold on. No, it's not. I thought it was another game.
It's not always easy to find. The games are not quite.
No, it's really difficult.
On as well as the other normal under 23 games.
So hopefully, I mean, what were your thoughts about kind of the hopes there? Well, you see a team like West Brom. I say batter us. The last 2 goals did come in the last 5 minutes of the game, so it did flatter to deceiving a little bit. But do you feel like this is a competition that you're expecting us to go far in, even though we've lost the likes of following Balogun, etc., in the last couple of months or so?
You really never quite know, because we've taken some sort of heavy defeats, but also come up with some really good results. I mean, we battered Bournemouth, which we weren't quite expecting to do, and put on a great performance against them and smashed 4 goals past them. So it could kind of, I'm not sure too much what to expect, but I think the team is starting to settle down now. We know what players we've got at our disposal. The comings and goings have happened, and we have a little bit of stability. So I think the side can hopefully sit down now with a squad, with a team that is the same each week, and start to put some consistent results together. And there's certainly some, when you've got the likes of, if you look how far Amari Hutchinson is coming under 23 football, and Marcelo Flores is really, really doing well. So we've got the match winners there to sort of pull these results out the bag. So yeah, I think there's hope that we can progress further in this tournament, no matter who we get.
Let's go on to the juicy stuff then and talk about transfers, which I know is what a lot of people tune in to find out all about. There was quite a lot of movement during the January window, as there often is with the youth side. We saw Jordan Osei-Tutu, Tyrese John-Jules, Harry Clark, Nikolai Moller all return and then leave again on loan. But we then saw the likes of Miguel Aziz, who returned from Portsmouth, didn't go out on loan. And Jonathan Dinzey as well, I believe, is also still at the club too, unless I've missed a transfer. But I'm pretty sure he's still there. And then regarding outs, the big one obviously was following Balogun going to Middlesbrough, of which he's doing really well. We'll talk about him in more detail in just a second. Osei-Tutu joined Rotherham, although did stay with the Arsenal team to train and get back up to fitness before he goes out fully to join up with them.
He's there now. He played last night.
Oh, he is there. Okay, fantastic news. John Jules dropped down a division to League One with Sheffield Wednesday, kind of replacing Theo Corbener, who left, who's on loan from Wolves, who then went to MK Dons in the January window. Cole Hine, obviously people will be recognisable for, he's been on the Arsenal senior bench a couple of times, obviously featured during pre-season. He's gone to Reading in the Championship and kept a clean sheet on his debut, I think, as well, which was good to see. Harry Clark's joined Hibernian on an 18-month loan deal with 2 break clauses, so we could recall him in the summer or the following January. And I think at the end of that, they have an option if they want to buy him as well. From memory, Nikolai Moller returned from Victoria Köln, where he really was struggling in the 3rd tier of German football to really make an impact. He's now gone to the 2nd tier of the Dutch leagues with FC Den Bosch. Jordan McAnuff, who's a player that I remember being talked about in the past, but has, I think, gone off the radar a bit now. He's gone to Shelbourne in the Irish Premier Division. And then some really notable ones. Ryan Alabiosu, who's been on the bench a couple of times for the senior side, has gone to Crewe. And he made his debut, I think, against Gills in a 1-0 loss. My dad was at that game because he's a big Gills fan. Tim Akinola went to Dundee United in the Scottish Premiership. And Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who my colleague Chris Wheatley reported yesterday, is impressing Mikel Arteta very much so at his loans so far at Lincoln City. So of all those moves, and besides Balogun, who will give some special dispensation to in just a moment. Which ones, both ins and outs, and those that didn't move, kind of surprised you?
Well, I think Feller and Balogun is definitely one to spend some time talking about, because the expectations of him in that mood, and maybe I'll move on and we'll come back to Feller, but there's definitely a lot to talk about there. The Harry Clark deal sort of surprised me, pulling him away from Ross County and then sending him to Hibernian. I think there was talk that Rangers were going to buy him at one point, and it seemed like Arsenal were looking to cash in and make a little bit of a profit there.
Yeah.
But it then sort of materialized in quite a strange looking deal, with long-term deal with break clauses, and we're not quite sure what the strategy is there. It's an interesting one.
Does that make you feel like the club were concerned they would lose him and he would turn into something quite special? Because you don't put break clauses in an 18-month without the hope of thinking there's a chance he could do really well and continue that form.
I think they're just being very careful with loans in general. That if there are so many things that could disrupt a loan, with young players are not always trusted, and injuries can happen, and it can be hard to break into a team when these are people playing to pay for their mortgage. It's cutthroat, and so I think they're just being very careful. And if it's not working out, they're bringing someone back quickly, and they're resetting and going with a new deal somewhere else. So I think they've been quite clever with that, and they're kind of not letting things drift and sort of no progress in development be made, because that can, there's a lot of times where we've not had those break clauses and people have just been sat sort of wasting away on the bench, not developing how we want. So I think that's what it is. But there certainly seems to be a strategy for Arsenal to look at looking at our academy as a dual purpose of producing players for the first team, but also looking to make a profit. And I think Harry, definitely they're looking at that strategy for him. So I think that's good, and hopefully some other players can make us some money as well, because although it's sad to see people leave, not everyone can make it, and if we can make money on some of those players, then that will benefit us, and we need to do that more. So I think that's
Miguel Aziz loan's an interesting one, and that obviously when we were doing this show, he was kind of one of the main ones we talked about a bit, and he wasn't really big in getting loads of opportunities. He was towards the end of his time with Portsmouth, and to be honest, I kind of put that more down to Portsmouth panicking that they were going to lose him than anything else. But Arsenal still decided to recall him, as we reported on Football London quite some time ago, that there was a sign that he would be coming back. He didn't go out on loan again, despite the fact that he, for me, alongside Patino, was probably rated, and Balogun, of course, as that next kind of person who was going to break into the senior side. So were you surprised that he stayed with the youth team?
A little bit. I think he came back, and obviously he could have been used as midfield cover for the first team when we were at the point where we were struggling for numbers in the centre of the park, with Patino and Nenny away with AFCON. We were, everyone was panicking a little bit, and that's so I think there was some idea that he could be someone that could step in. Now he had a little bit of experience, but I think what happened is he returned to Arsenal and got COVID pretty quickly. So that sort of ruled him out of a lot of training and a lot of and maybe ruled him out of sort of potential loan moves. I'm not too sure. See, he only really returned to training and being around in sort of the final days of the window. So it was maybe that Arsenal weren't quite sure whether they still needed him for cover or whether they wanted to send him out. And in the end, he just ended up staying put. And I guess it is a shame, because I would have liked him to have seen him either be involved more or go out on loan, because at the minute I've seen him play the last few games in the under-23s, and he looks like he's a little bit going through the motions almost. And he's had a taste of a high level of football, and now he's come back to the under-23s, and I think he's a bit maybe lost in that stratosphere and needs a resolution there somehow. But unfortunately, I think he's going to have to see out the rest of the season in under-23 football, and that's the way it's going to be for him. But I'd like to see him progress to another loan next season in which he can continue his development, because I think although at times he struggled at Portsmouth, there were positive things from that loan as well. He did gain some match experience. There were times when he played well, and there was adversity as well, which would help him also in his development. I know Danny Cowley works with him a lot on the training field about his off the ball game, and that will only serve to benefit us. So I think overall it can, in hindsight, be viewed as a fairly positive loan because there's a lot we can take from it, but it didn't quite overall get the full package of development that we were hoping for, and hopefully we'll see how he does next season.
The two other strikers that went on loan, Tyrese John-Jules and Nikolai Moller, not strangers to scoring goals at under 23 level when they've been given the opportunity, and one of the big reasons as to why they were then loaned out to see if they could do it at a senior level. Yeah. Moller really didn't get on well in Germany. I found it very, very difficult to find any information, to be honest, whilst he was out. That was a big trick. Even finding any clips was near impossible. Tyrese John-Jules went to Blackpool, wasn't really able to kind of find his feet, did face injuries as he has done in his early career, and is actually now back with Arsenal at this very moment in time because he's got injured again whilst with Sheffield Wednesday. So those two, for their Arsenal futures, is it not fair to say, but I don't think it's too risky at this point to suggest that they may end up leaving on permanence in the not so distant future? Yeah,
and I think it's probably, as much as I really like Tyrese John-Jules, that's probably what he needs to do, and he needs to sort of leave and start from scratch and find himself somewhere where he can have that consistency and sort of have some time where he has peak fitness for a consistent length of time, because it's almost heartbreaking in a way, because every time he makes that little bit of progress, he then gets injured and he's back to square one. And it's absolutely been the story. I know he's only 20, but it's been the story of his career. You can also say that about Jordi Osei-Tutu, because he's in the exact same position where, although he's older, every time he plays well and makes a bit of progress, he's injured again, and he just can't seem to find that break. So I think they're a handful of players that probably need to reset their careers a little bit and leave. And there's definite talent there, so you wouldn't be surprised to see them work their way up the divisions and us be sat watching Tyrese John-Jules in the Premiership for Brighton or something like that years down the line. You could see it, but I think it's probably one of those things that needs to happen.
With Moller?
Yeah, I guess it's a difficult one because the sample size is so much smaller. Do we really know what? There's obviously great physical traits he has, but we just haven't had that sample size of him in senior football to see how that translates. And I almost would have liked him to maybe stay and play a little bit with Mika Biereth, and I'd like to see them two together. I think they could work quite well together. Maybe stay just a couple of months the rest of this season in the under-23s, but I don't know how he's doing with Den Bosch in Holland.
No, neither do I, to be fair. A friend of mine, a friend of the channel actually in the chat box, he does a lot of writing in Belgian football, was actually travelling up to Den Bosch, but the game got called off and travelled all the way up. But it's tricky to find information. I will try and get some information whilst we're discussing him. But go on.
If you can find a Den Bosch expert, then that is hats off to you. That would be.
Yeah. Don't tempt me. So, I mean, he's played, when he was playing in Germany, obviously 10 third-tier Bundesliga appearances, no goals. Scored 3 times in what is known as the Mittel or Hine Pokal, which I think is probably the German version of the Johnston Paint Trophy. I imagine it's something similar to that. But in regards to playing for Den Bosch, I'm struggling to try and find out. He's played what looks to be 2 games where he started both of them. It may be 3 with the third against PSV's under-21s, but the information's not on the website. But no goals in those 2 games either.
That'd be interesting. It might be the type of player that if he does well there, we can make some money off him, and that might be the best scenario. We've got quite a lot of strikers sort of in our ranks that are very sort of great prospects. So, unless he's really hitting top form and he's something that we need to take a serious look at, you imagine his fate might lie elsewhere.
The last focus of the ounce is looking at the two right backs. Well, you did mention Alabiosu too, but I think we can admit we covered that, talking about injuries. He's probably going to see his career peter out with Arsenal. But Ryan Alabiosu, whose numbers were fantastic for the under-23s, playing at right back, right wing back, right wing. I think something like 7 assists and a couple of goals as well for the under-23s and the under-21s all combined. And Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who I remember when we first started doing this show, you said, as I said, one name to kind of remember this season, and you said Brooke Norton-Cuffy is kind of the one to keep your eye on. And clearly that was a good shout, because whilst he's not got an assist or a goal yet, which, you know, as measures for a right back aren't particularly accurate anyway, but he's gone to Lincoln, where he's playing on the opposite flank to Cohen Bramall, of all people, who Arsenal fans will remember. And our information at Football London through Chris Wheatley is that he's really impressing Mikel Arteta and those that are keeping track of him.
He's been exceptional, and for anyone who's seen the highlights of those games, that he looks absolutely fantastic. And he was the pick that I gave you when the very first show we did, and it's been very clear for a long time that he's a player whilst he's still quite raw, he has everything in his locker. He's technically good, he's physically brilliant, he's intelligent, he's versatile, he just has everything you could want, and I think he's the type of player where you could probably develop him in any position you wanted, and he'll probably make something of it. He's just a fantastic athlete, which when you watch some of these mazy runs that he's been going on for Lincoln, and you know, he's the right back or the right wing back, but if you watch Lincoln, he's the most dangerous player. He's the most creative player almost every game. He's the one that's either going through the center or going down the right wing and creating chances. So he's having a great time. And I think what surprised us most is just how much he stepped up to the physical challenge of League One football, and he doesn't look out of place at all. He doesn't look like an 18-year-old kid. He looks like he's been playing there for years, and he's not intimidated by that at all, and he's really stood up to that test. So whether next season we consider him for the first team or whether he goes for another loan, I don't know, but he's certainly already in 2.5 free games he's making great strides. So it's really impressive stuff, and not a surprise to me.
Let's finish off the show with the headline act of the Arsenal youth setup, which is, of course, following Balogun, who next season, if we're still doing this show, we may not be discussing in this show, because he'll be hopefully integrated fully into the Arsenal senior setup. But following Balogun joined Middlesbrough for the last 6 months of the season. Interestingly, again, Chris reported that it was decided in the Sunderland game that was the moment they were realised that, yes, we need to give him the time out on loan, senior football elsewhere, and that he won't be kind of playing a part in the senior setup for the last 6 months of the season, at least. Since going there, hasn't scored yet, but he's got a couple of great assists and really crucial moments for Middlesbrough. He started the game against Man United as well in the FA Cup. We imagine he'll probably start again in the FA Cup against Spurs, so that'll be another really interesting game to watch when that comes around. What have you made of him so far, and are you excited to see what he does for the rest of the season?
I am. I'm watching very eagerly with anticipation. I think I'm excited about it, but I have some ambivalence about it as well. I don't think it's a place where he's going to go and score lots of goals, and I've been quite vocal about this, because Middlesbrough as a whole, they're not a team that creates chances in the conventional way. That, you know, they're not spamming crosses into the box for him to get on the end of, and they're not, you know, he's also playing as in a 2 up front, and he's playing as the deeper striker. So he's not playing off the last defender, and he's not racing onto through balls over the top or in between. He's dropping deeper and dropping into midfield to sort of get involved in the link-up play. And he's working very hard, and it's not natural to him, but he's working very hard and he's doing well. For me, it seems like any success he's going to get there in terms of goals and assists are things he's going to have to fashion for himself. And if you look at the 2 assists he's got, that's just what he's done. I mean, the assist he got the other week was sensational. That he chased down a ball and then played this little Nice bit of skill, which put it on a plate for whoever is. I can't remember if it was Watmore or someone else, but it was fantastic. And that was something he fashioned himself. And I think that's what he's going to have to end up doing most of the time, because it's just not going to come on a plate for him at all there. And I think, the Borough midfielders, they work really hard as a unit. You can see they're quite well organised, but they're just not that creative and not that technically gifted, I don't think. It's more like hard-working players like Johnny Howson and players like that. So he's not going to quite get that service that you would want a striker like Flores Balogun to have. So I think that people's expectations that he's just going to go to Borough and bang in the goals are probably need to be tempered a little bit. But him sort of doing that different role of being that sort of number 10, just dropping in deeper, linking in with the midfield is, I think, a good thing for him to learn. And it'll be really good for Arsenal for him to learn that, because if you think about the type of striker we want at the club, how Lacazette plays for us, that's really what we want. Someone who's going to link in, get involved, hold the ball up, and bring everyone else into play. And then, there's Smith Rowe, Saka, all interchanging and all, in true Pep Guardiola fashion, you don't need a striker, it's that kind of mentality. And so the fact that he's sort of learning that game a bit more and working hard at that will only benefit us, I think. So on the surface, it might not look like he's having the best of loans. No goals so far. Hopefully he gets one soon. But I think it could be really beneficial in the long term for us. So ambivalent, I think, is the best word to sort of describe his time there so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about seeing what happens between now and the end of the season for him. I agree with you. I'm not expecting him to get like a goal every other game, and for his I was going to say KD, like playing Call of Duty, if you know what I mean, but kind of his strike rate for Arsenal being impressive, for Middlesbrough being impressive. But with Arsenal letting Aubameyang leave, Lacazette looks like he's going to go, and Nketiah looks like, importantly, he's going to go. Arsenal will strengthen in the summer. They will sign a striker. Plenty of people, including myself, feel they need to bring in two forwards, to be honest. One, that key marquee figure. The other one, maybe a more prospective kind of Armando Broja type player that's been linked to us in the past. If that does happen, do you feel as though Balogun still has the capacity to come back after this loan, or do you think that he needs a full season somewhere where he's playing at senior level week in, week out?
I guess only time will tell. And I think if he can sort of add those different sort of attributes to his game, as he is trying to do now through this loan, then I think he could come back and be that second striker. And I think he could surprise a lot of people with what he can do, because getting Flores Balogun in front of goal and him finishing that off, it's never ever been a problem, and it never ever will be a problem. It's the other parts to his game that transition him into senior football. Can he use his physicality more? Can he be a bit more cuter with his runs? Can he link in play better? Can he play with his back to goal? All of those things are the things that he needs to kind of work on to transition into senior football or into senior football with Arsenal. Being in front of goal and scoring, I don't think is ever something we'll need to worry about with him. It comes natural to him. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So I think, he can. He can. If all goes well and he carries on with this role with Middlesbrough and he carries on making progress, then I think it'll serve him really well, and he can be that man for us next season alongside a more established striker that will our marquee signing.
Absolutely. I look forward to, fingers crossed, we're going to be doing a dedicated monthly show with a former colleague of mine who's a big Middlesbrough fan on Balogun. So I'll be able to get some even more in-depth look at what's been going on for him as well. But if you've enjoyed this little look into the youth side with me and Kev, we do this every single month, and we'll be doing our next one at the end of March to find out what's happened between now and then. Fingers crossed we can progress again through the PL Cup, and we know actually who we're facing. Would be great if if they could publish that information as soon as possible, would be much appreciated. I think there is actually a game in the PL Cup tomorrow, so that might give a reason as to why we've not seen that information published as of yet. And also the PL2 and how we go on. And of course, we'll be keeping up to date with all of the other players that have been sent out on loan and keeping close tabs on the likes of Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who looks to be a really interesting player at right back, could, who knows, be a replacement for Cedric, and we might not even need to go into the market next season, which would be great to be able to focus our investment on those central midfield and striker positions. Kev, thank you so much, mate, for coming on the show as always. Tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Thanks for having me, Tom. You can find me as always on Twitter, Scouting Indoors, on Next Generation Arsenal. Always friendly and always willing to debate or have a chat with anyone. So give me a yell.
Absolutely. Lovely stuff. Thank you, Kev, once again. Thank you, chat box. Sorry, we've not been able to be too engaging, but don't worry, this isn't your only show of the day. 8 p.m. tonight, we'll be doing our preview ahead of the Wolves game. I'm joined by 3 of the members from our Discord server, as always. So please do join us then. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Do join us at 8, as I say. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. And as always, up the Arsenal.